Gentlemen, G.P. Walsh here from the Balls Project, and I want to tell you a story about indifference. Some additional insight for you into what indifference really is. We try to learn it through our sense of behavior. We try to imitate the behavior of it. We try to pretend that we're indifferent when in fact we're not. And also, we're a bit afraid of it because we think the indifference is going to leave us kind of flat and empty. No sense of motivation, no sense of purpose, no sense of drive. When you take away your attachment to results, what do you have left? I know it's a very paradoxical thing, but maybe this story will give you an indication of it. Long time ago, in the time of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, of course, was an emperor who by the age of, I don't know, something like 30 or something ridiculous like that, he had conquered the known world, which was everything at that time. And one of the countries that he conquered, as he was conquering the world, was India. And when he was in India, he had heard the stories about these sages, these wise men, these guys that did miraculous things and seemed to have a knowledge that was pretty far out there, nothing like he'd ever known. So he wanted to learn more about it. And he had gotten word that there was a sage like that living not far from where he was. So he sent a bunch of men, a troop of men, to go get this sage and bring him back so he could talk to him. Well, off the men go, and I don't know how much later, a day or two later, they come back. No sage. And he says, "Well, where is the guy?" They said, "Well, we couldn't bring him." He said, "What do you mean you couldn't bring him?" He said, "Well, he wouldn't come. One man, one guy, and he wouldn't come. He couldn't. No, we couldn't make him come." So Alexander gets on his horse and goes out himself personally. Obviously, this guy had something going on. So off he goes to meet this guy, and he gets there, he gets off, and he meets the guy, and he says, "Do you know who I am?" And the guy says, "I have no idea." And he says, "I'm Alexander the Great." And to which the sage replies, "Anybody who calls himself great isn't." Now, this pisses off Alexander no end. I mean, this is the guy who's conquered the whole world, right? And he pulls out his sword and he says, I could cut your head off with one slice of my sword." To which the sage responds, "Go ahead, and we'll both watch it fall to the ground." Alexander is dumbfounded, and he just leaves. And he tells a confidant later. He asks this question. He says, "How do you control a man who has no fear?" Now, this is the real indifference. The sage was not at all concerned, even about his own life. It's like, go ahead. Which made him uncontrollable. There was nothing you could do to force him to your will. There's nothing Alexander could do to force him to his will because he had nothing that he wasn't willing to give up. He had no attachment whatsoever to the object. This is the indifference I want you to understand. Go ahead. Kill me. When you are not afraid to die, when you are not afraid to be embarrassed, when you are not afraid of being rejected, when you have completely dismissed all of the things that make us feel graspy and clutchy and needy, when you release those, you become uncontrollable. Uncontrollable, of course, is total power, which is the thing that is so attractive, especially to women. So I really want you to understand that. I think that story illustrates what we're really trying to do here is to cultivate this total sense of indifference towards your own life, towards your attachment to the results you're going to get, which doesn't mean your life becomes flat. It means what happens is you become totally present. You become totally engaged in the moment because you're not concerned about the future. You're simply here, responding naturally, authentically, genuinely, from the heart, from the balls, from the gut, and from the mind. All right here, right now, in the present. That's the indifference that I'm talking about. That's the state I want to get you to.